All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Local Analog, your go-to film channel for exploring the southeastern part of the United States. It is a Monday morning. I'm drinking Earl Grey tea out of this random Juneau, Alaska mug and just kind of enjoying the morning light. It's finally not raining, so that's great. Happy to be alive, as always. And thankful to bring you a video about my 5 tips of how to get into shooting film. This list is not perfect. This list is not end all be all, but it's a list, and you can use it as a working list for whatever you need it for, and I hope it's helpful to you. Let's get started. Number 1, you gotta have a camera. Right? You gotta have a film camera, a camera that shoots film. And so I recommend starting, number 1, with 35mm film. I think 35mm is the easiest to shoot. It makes the most sense. I think starting out, 120 is different and it can be kind of hard to load in some capacities. So I think starting with 35mm is the smartest way, and I recommend a camera like this one. This is a Yashica Electro 35. There's nothing inherently special about this camera. It's an old rangefinder. It's old, it's got haze and nothing great going on in the viewfinder, but it's a good camera to start with. And the reason I say that is because it's cheap. It's like less than $100. I think you're gonna spend so much money on buying film and processing film anyway when you start, and you're gonna end up being disappointed just because that's how film is. You have to learn how to shoot it. So why would you invest into a very expensive camera? I think for the average Joe, which we're all kind of average Joes out there, you need to get a camera that's not gonna break your bank. And so I highly recommend starting with a cheap camera, starting with 35mm, go on eBay, type in 35mm film camera, buy the Nikon, buy the Yashica. Don't spend more than $100, $120, $130 on your first camera. I highly suggest if you're out there just wanting to dabble in film, get something like this. It's cheap. It's metal kinda. I mean, and the lens is kinda metal, but it's like plastic. And if I twist it hard enough, it's gonna break, and that's a good thing. You want that. It's kind of like an out of tune piano. Sometimes it's just nice to play. I would highly recommend starting with something like this. It's simple and it's cheap. So yeah. Number 2, the number 1 question or feedback that we get is how we meter film. Metering film is an art form in and of itself, and I think the first thing I would say is you've got to have an accurate meter. You don't have to go out and buy an expensive one like this, but you do need a meter that works and that is accurate. Otherwise, you're going to be getting wrong readings and you're going to be disappointed with your film. I think the number 1 deterrent for people who try film and then quit shooting film is that they meter incorrectly and they don't like the results. So I highly recommend get a solid meter, spend $100 on the meter. The thing about the meter is if you get a good one to start with, you won't have to buy one later on because they just last, and as long as you take care of it. So spend $100, $150 on a meter. If you can, your phone can work as a meter. I wouldn't recommend it as much. It's not as accurate. It doesn't have the necessary technology or whatever is in this thing. It doesn't have that, and so please go get a good meter for the sake of your pictures. Number 3, and this one is huge. Learn how to meter. So you just got this nice meter from eBay, and now you have to learn how to use the thing. The way I learned how to do this, it wasn't by trial and error necessarily. I wanted to learn how to meter right out of the gate, and I found Johnny Patience. He's a photographer, really talented, love his work. I found on his website he has a blog post on how he meters film, and I think that in my beginning stages of shooting film, I loved his work so much, and he had this article on how he meters film, so I latched onto this thing. So I'm gonna link that article below, but the main points of the article are, number 1 is you rate at half box speed. So if you're shooting portrait 400, you wanna rate that film at 200, and so you get your meter. You set your meter's ISO to 200 if you're shooting 400 speed film, and then you take a reading like normal. That's all you do, and you send it off to the lab, and you don't tell them to change anything, just have them develop it normally. I think the biggest surprise to me was that when you when you rate the film at half the box speed, you're going to overexpose the film. And at first, when I was thinking that, I didn't want to overexpose the film because I didn't want my highlights to be gone. But I had a digital mindset coming into film. And we have to remember, film came before digital, and so the process is a lot different. And so when you overexpose film, you're not actually brightening it necessarily, but you're giving it a more dense, you're giving the negative more dense light and more dense color that's going to come from overexposing. So don't equate them the same, because they're not the same. Now, there are limits to that. You wouldn't want to rate 400 speed film at like 6400 or maybe even 3200. I wouldn't recommend that. But try to push the film, and that'll help you not get such muddy results whenever you get your scans back. I just find that overexposing the film is just a safety guard more than anything. It is a creative decision as much as it is a safety guard for me. And so if you're shooting at, Portrait 800, try rating it at 400. And what you're just going to automatically overexpose by a stop, and that is a good thing for the film, and it can handle it. But I will link that below. Please read that article. Johnny is a very good resource, and so please go to his website and read his article. Number 4. Okay, so the first 3 pointers or tips were very just practical. The last 2 are more philosophical, theoretical, whatever. They're definitely subjective to me. You don't have to even consider these. But try in the first 6 months of you shooting film, try to just keep it to yourself. Try to really just hone in on shooting a new medium and just keep the work to yourself. Don't feel like you have to share everything that you shoot. For sure, share it with your friends, but be careful, don't feel like you have to put everything out there for the world to see. Just try to enjoy almost keeping a secret with yourself of the film that you're shooting. Try to just enjoy the process of that, and check your motivation too. Is it just to shoot film and to have a good time, to just take good pictures, or is it to, the trend is now film, and so I'm going to shoot film now. And I realize that there's a little bit of each of that maybe in the motivation, but really consider how you can kind of keep this practice to yourself for a little while, and to really study it and get to know the elements and the characteristics of film. So yeah, just take some time and just to enjoy the process. Enjoy what it's like to shoot a new medium, and yeah, you just have to take some time to learn that. And so I would just highly recommend keeping it to yourself. Don't share your first 100 negatives that you get back. Just keep them and learn from your mistakes that you're inevitably going to make. And that leads me to my last point. So this one's more personal to me. I see a lot of this, I guess, in the social media realm, but don't think just because you're shooting film, don't think that you're all of a sudden a better photographer. Film does not make anybody inherently better. Film is a new medium that is different from digital, but truthfully, a good photograph is a good photograph. And we're kind of in this age to where, and I do this too, but we're kind of in this age to where we're always posting about what type of camera we just shot this with, what lens, what film. I would suggest not being a purist when it comes to shooting film. Don't think of yourself highly, but just enjoy this process. Just enjoy shooting another type of photograph. It's ultimately not going to make you better. It's going to make you look a lot worse because your images are going to stink at first. And that's coming from every good photographer I know. Every good photographer I know would say their first several thousand images, especially film, were terrible. And that's because film is harder. It's a different kind of beast to maneuver. It's more difficult in that aspect, but you'll find, I think, that it's actually more forgiving. Get a camera that's adequate. Get an accurate meter. Learn how to meter properly and in a way that overexposes. Read the Johnny Patience article that I'll link below in the comments. Keep some work to yourself. Enjoy the process of having horrible looking images, but keep trying really hard. And the last thing was, don't think too highly of yourself. Don't be a purist. Don't demonize digital photography because you've now started shooting film. In all reality, all photographs and all cameras and all mediums that involve photography you're out there to get a good photograph. And so remember that you can be taking good photographs no matter what you're using. So enjoy this process, and thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know if this was helpful, and let me know what you guys want to see next time. Thanks so much.